Welcome to Context 101. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The world of car manufacturing is rarely quiet. Every day, thousands of workers, engineers, and executives keep the wheels of industry turning, producing millions of vehicles that shape how we live, work, and travel. But beneath the steady hum of machinery, powerful forces are always at play, threatening to disrupt the status quo. In early 2026, a seismic tremor shook the industry, not from the factory floor, but from the corridors of power. Decisions made far from the assembly line sent shockwaves through boardrooms and union halls alike, signaling that the rules of the game were about to change. Two automotive giants, Ford and Tesla, are making moves that threaten to redraw the North American map. Their strategies, ambitions, and rivalries are now at the center of a battle that could reshape the entire industry. This is more than a business story. It's about jobs, alliances, and the future of trade. The livelihoods of countless families, the fate of entire communities, and the direction of international partnerships all hang in the balance. At the heart of this drama is a bold new Canada-China trade agreement, opening the door to a wave of Chinese electric vehicles. This move promises cheaper, greener cars for Canadian consumers, but also raises tough questions about competition, national security, and the future of North American manufacturing. Meanwhile, President Trump's furious declaration that the USMCA is now irrelevant has thrown the continent's trade framework into chaos, leaving businesses and governments scrambling to adapt. These events have set the stage for a confrontation that pits neighbor against neighbor and ally against ally. Tensions are rising, and the stakes have never been higher for the future of cross-border cooperation. Ford, a cornerstone of American industry, faces threats to its integrated North American strategy. The company must now navigate a landscape where old certainties are vanishing, and new risks emerge at every turn. Tesla, the electric pioneer, stands to both win and lose as its fortunes are tied to regulatory credits and new import opportunities. The company's future may depend on how quickly it can adapt to shifting policies and fierce new competition. The decisions made today in Washington, Ottawa, and Beijing will echo for years, determining who builds the cars of the future and where. The outcome will shape not just the auto industry, but the economic destiny of entire nations. We are witnessing a high-stakes chess match played with tariffs, trade quotas, and political rhetoric. Every move is calculated, every statement scrutinized, as leaders try to outmaneuver each other on the global stage. This is the story of how global politics is steering the auto industry down a new and unpredictable road, one where innovation, diplomacy, and competition will decide who leads the next era of mobility. To understand today's crisis, we must look back. The North American auto industry's integration began with the 1965 Auto Pact, eliminating tariffs and allowing factories to specialize across the U.S. and Canada. This created unprecedented efficiency, lower costs, and a booming cross-border trade. A transmission built in Toledo could be installed in Windsor and sold in California. No tariffs, no barriers. Millions of jobs and a unified market followed, making North America a global manufacturing powerhouse. But the system wasn't without critics. In 1994, NAFTA expanded the market to include Mexico, introducing new complexities and controversies, especially over jobs moving to lower-wage regions. Over decades, these treaties built a deeply intertwined supply chain. Now, President Trump's recent declarations threaten to unravel a system 60 years in the making. The foundation of North American manufacturing is suddenly at risk. For decades, NAFTA was a political lightning rod, sparking heated debates across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Supporters praised it for boosting trade and economic growth, but critics argued it came at a steep cost for American workers. Many blame NAFTA for sending U.S. manufacturing jobs south of the border, leaving behind shuttered factories and struggling communities. In response, President Trump made renegotiating NAFTA a central campaign promise, ultimately leading to the creation of the USMCA in 2020. The new agreement was hailed as a modernized pact, designed to bring jobs back, rebalance trade, and address long-standing grievances. One of the most significant changes was in the auto industry. The USMCA's stricter rules now require that 75% of a vehicle's components be made in North America, up from 62.5% under NAFTA. Additionally, a substantial portion of those parts must be produced by workers earning higher wages, aiming to level the playing field and protect jobs in the U.S. and Canada. These new requirements forced automakers to overhaul their supply chains, invest in compliance, and rethink sourcing strategies to meet the tougher standards. Despite the added costs and complexity, the auto industry largely embraced the deal, calling it crucial for the future of U.S. auto production and competitiveness. However, the USMCA also introduced a 6-year review clause, which has become a new source of instability and concern for businesses and workers alike. Under this clause, any country can demand changes or even threaten to withdraw from the agreement, putting the entire deal at risk. With the first review set for 2026, Trump's renewed rhetoric and threats have sent shockwaves through the industry, raising fears of renewed trade wars and economic uncertainty. The future of North American auto manufacturing now hangs on a political fault line, with every review cycle bringing new questions about stability and long-term investment. The very rules that once promised stability and growth have now become a source of uncertainty, leaving businesses and workers anxiously watching the political winds. As the next review approaches, the stakes for automakers, workers, and the entire North American economy have never been higher. As the world pivots to electric vehicles, governments are forcing the industry's hand. Canada's ambitious EV mandate required 20% of new vehicles sold by 2026 to be electric. Automakers who missed the target had to buy costly credits, mostly from Tesla. But Canadian consumers weren't buying EVs fast enough. Sales lagged far behind the mandate. Legacy automakers faced hundreds of millions in penalties, while Tesla profited handsomely. The Detroit Three lobbied hard to scrap the mandate, arguing it punished them for consumer choices and put them at a disadvantage, especially as the U.S. rolled back similar rules. The Canadian government was caught between climate goals and the wrath of its largest employers. The EV mandate became untenable. Seeking a solution, Canada turned to China for affordable EVs. This set the stage for a controversial new trade deal. The next move would reshape the entire market. Under pressure to fix its EV shortfall, Canada made a stunning pivot. In January 2026, Prime Minister Carney announced a landmark trade deal with China, slashing tariffs and allowing tens of thousands of Chinese EVs into Canada. In exchange, China lowered import levies on Canadian canola oil. For China, it was a major victory, a foothold in North America's auto market. For Tesla, the deal opened new export opportunities from its Shanghai factory, even as regulatory credits were threatened. The pact offered a lower-cost supply chain for Canadian EVs. But in Washington, it was seen as a betrayal, circumventing North American supply chain security and inviting unfair competition. The U.S. response was swift and furious. Canada's landmark trade deal with China landed like a bombshell in Washington, sending shockwaves through the halls of power and igniting a political firestorm. U.S. political leaders from both parties condemned the agreement, calling it a strategic blunder and a betrayal of the North American bloc. The sense of urgency was palpable, as lawmakers warned of dire consequences for the continent's economic unity. Ford's CEO quickly raised alarms about the influx of Chinese vehicles equipped with advanced surveillance technology, warning that these cars could pose a threat to American privacy and national security as they appeared on U.S. roads. President Trump, speaking at a Detroit Ford factory surrounded by workers, dismissed the USMCA as obsolete. He declared, "We don't need cars made in Canada, we want to take them here," signaling a dramatic shift in U.S. trade policy. Calling the USMCA irrelevant, Trump threatened to tear up the continent's economic rule book, vowing to rewrite the terms of trade if America's interests weren't put first. The future of North American trade was suddenly thrown into chaos, with markets reacting nervously and businesses scrambling to assess the fallout. With the first USMCA review looming on the horizon, Trump signaled a willingness to abandon the agreement entirely if his demands weren't met, raising the stakes for all parties involved. For automakers, billions invested in compliance and cross-border operations now seemed at risk, as uncertainty clouded the future of their business models. The once integrated North American supply chain, built over decades, had become a critical vulnerability overnight, threatening to unravel years of economic cooperation. The stakes for jobs, investment, and economic stability could not be higher, as workers and investors alike faced an uncertain future. The continent's economic future now hangs in the balance, with every decision carrying consequences for millions across North America. These political maneuvers have real consequences for millions. The North American auto industry supports 10 million workers. If tariffs return and supply chains break, factories could shutter, and layoffs would ripple from Ontario to Michigan to Mexico. Consumers would face higher car prices as efficiencies vanish overnight. Meanwhile, cheaper Chinese EVs could lower prices in Canada, but drive up costs elsewhere. The stock market has already reacted with volatility, reflecting deep investor anxiety. Billions in market value can be wiped out by a single political statement. The U.S. Canada relationship, once defined by trust, is now strained by trade disputes. Prime Minister Carney must now defend Canada's new pact, while negotiating away U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. The trust that underpinned North American trade is being tested as never before. The fallout is just beginning. Experts see this as a pivotal moment, a clash of economic philosophies. Canada's deal with China was a pragmatic response to an unworkable EV mandate, but many U.S. analysts call it strategically naive. They warn Canada is underestimating America's resolve to protect its industrial base from Chinese competition. Industry leaders argue the integrated North American supply chain is a massive competitive advantage. Dismantling it would raise costs and cede ground to global rivals. Labor advocates warn that without North American content rules, U.S. jobs are at risk from a flood of Asian imports. These trade deals aren't just about profits, they're about protecting the livelihoods of millions. The stakes are personal, not just political. We stand at a crossroads. The foundations of the North American auto industry have been shaken. The moves by Ford and Tesla are symptoms of a much larger realignment. Will Trump dismantle the USMCA? Can Canada navigate between its two largest partners? How will automakers adapt? For workers and consumers, the future is clouded with doubt, and the promise of stability seems fragile. The balance that defined the market for a generation is broken. This is more than a trade dispute. It's a debate about globalization, alliances, and the future of work. The road ahead is unpaved, and the only certainty is turbulence.